Can physics explain consciousness, and does it create reality? This is a question from Quora.com. Can we create our physical reality? This is an easy question to settle by experimentation. Take the double slit experiment, where we have a wave function, where we have a wave pattern, and then when we try to observe by putting some probe, some electronic stuff around it to see which slits the photons are going through, that light is going through, we get a particle pattern. Understand? So now, what people are saying is, are selling, this is a sell, is that we have created reality by merely observation. This is not true. So when you have this thing, an easy experiment is you have the double slit experiment, and there's a wave pattern over there. Stare at it and will it with your mind to turn into a particle pattern. That is an easy experiment, and it will settle everything. No, but people don't want to do that because it's too easy. Because people are selling themselves as new world gurus, you know. So instead of this, they'll say that's unfair. Okay, fine. That is an unfair experiment, but it is the easy experiment because it's you saying our minds create reality. So stare at the thing and turn it into a particle pattern. Okay, fine. You say that's unfair. Then get the double slit experiment again. There's a wave pattern. We put a probe there to see which slit is going through. It becomes a particle pattern. Fine. Now why don't we put electrodes to your head and then will it with your mind for that particle pattern to turn back into a wave function, into a wave pattern. Again, it's an easy experiment, but they don't want to do this because these new world gurus are selling this thing to make, this is how they get their living. Understand? Two simple experiments can easily settle the question, but they don't want to do it. They don't want experimental proof. They just want a long debate that goes in circles and circles and circles, and they say, no, it's our minds doing it. But there are two simple experiments I have given you. Will it with your mind for that wave pattern to become a particle pattern. They don't want to do that. You know, this thing about willing reality, it's dangerous. There's an African president right now who once believed that you could turn water into gasoline. Then they don't have to buy any more gasoline and diesel from the Middle East because they can just turn water through incantations into gasoline. And now this person's running a country. Think about it. An English king once believed that he could make the tide go back as it was coming in. He believed he was chosen by God to be king, and he has the divine authority from God over nature. No, but the oceans didn't listen to him. The tide kept coming in. You know, then there are people who believe that we can send lightning to somebody and kill them with lightning. Or you can get a voodoo doll and put pins on it. And that person will just die, you know. Shatter rocks with your mind. Levitate things. Just by mere thought, you go deep into a thought and trance and you lift up rocks. Imagine that. I mean, come on. You know, it's like asking a silly philosophical question. Does a falling tree make a sound if no one is listening? Of course it makes a sound. It doesn't depend on you. But we must ask ourselves, what is consciousness? From a dictionary, consciousness is the state of being conscious. You know, you are aware of one's own existence. You are aware you exist. You are aware of your sensations, your thoughts, your surroundings, etc., etc. That is consciousness. But ants have consciousness. Dogs have consciousness. Rats are aware they are rats. Lizards are aware they're lizards. Dogs are aware they're dogs. Lions are aware they're lions. And all these Dolphins are aware they're dolphins. Orcas, sharks, all these animals are aware of themselves. Of course they're aware of themselves and their surroundings because they know where to hunt. They know there's a cliff over there. They know there's a ditch over there. Just observe these animals in nature. Chimpanzees, they are aware. Gorillas, they are aware. So in your experiments, why don't you get a dog to look? Why don't you tie probes to a dog and see if that wave pattern becomes a particle pattern? Understand? These are easy experiments. But obviously, fake people, they don't want the easy experiments because they want to essentially mess other people's minds, mess weak people's minds around. Why don't you tie the thing to a dolphin and see if the particle pattern becomes a wave pattern? These are easy experiments that are tied to a chimpanzee because they're all conscious. Ants are aware of their surroundings. They go hunting, they can go 2-3 miles away and they come back after going 2-3 miles. So they know their surroundings, they know exactly where to go back home to. Lions, leopards, they know where to go home to, where to find the night. So this consciousness, it's not just human beings. Don't be so arrogant when you are a scientist. Don't be that arrogant when you're a scientist. Consciousness is a big thing. So is a dolphin creating its own reality? Is a blue whale creating its own reality? Are eagles creating their own reality? Their own physical reality we're talking about. And even our social reality, we do not create it for ourselves. Nobody wants to be poor, but they're poor because of society. Understand? No woman wants to be raped. She's not creating that reality for herself. But there, she's been raped. People have been raped daily. Understand? Nobody wants to be murdered. They don't create a reality where they want to be murdered. But there, people have been murdered every day. They're conscious. Any consciousness, no matter how you look at it, you've got to be careful. Deal with facts. There are 2 simple experiments given to get rid of this idea that we can create our own physical consciousness, reality by consciousness. No. If you want to build a tunnel through a mountain, you've got to dig through that mountain. You can't just will it and say, oh no, now there's a tunnel. You've got to dig that tunnel. You've got to physically dig that tunnel, or blow it up or drill it. Understand? That is just reality. Just accept reality and stop being these new world gurus trying to take people for a ride,